Today we're here to do a full movie breakdown, criticism, and analysis of Gavin and Patricia's story from the 2010 film, Why Did I Get Married 2?
Written and directed by Tyler Perry, Why Did I Get Married 2 continues the stories of four couples as they meet up in the Bahamas for their annual marriage retreat, determined to fight for their marriages against the most difficult of challenges. Please note that in this video series on Why Did I Get Married 2, we've decided to create a separate video for each of the couples so that we can fully examine what happens in detail without the time constraints. Be sure to check out our breakdowns of the other couples as well as our full series on the first film, Why Did I Get Married, linked in the description. In this video, we'll focus on Gavin and Patricia's relationship.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
I can't wait to talk about this movie. But first, we want to thank all of the supporters who've helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App or click the thanks button on this video, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia or become a channel member by clicking the join button to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber.
Look at this. This is fabulous. This is beautiful.
So the first time that we see Gavin and Patricia in Why Did I Get Married 2, they are coming into the couples retreat in Bahamas. And they come in and they're looking and say, oh, it's all beautiful and wonderful. And they run into Sheila because Sheila and Troy are already there. And so it's not long before Gavin looks outside and sees that there are jet skis and is interested in going out there. And Patricia's like, oh, go ahead and go. I know you want to go out, to jet ski. And before he leaves, he gives her a kiss or whatever. And he's like, this is going to be amazing for us.
I can go. Thank you.
Be careful, okay?
This is going to be amazing for us.
So right away, we already have an indication that, why would you say this is going to be amazing for us? Are things not amazing? So it clues us into that things are maybe not that great. So then we have Sheila and Patricia left alone to kind of talk about things or whatever. And I just feel like Sheila, when I look at her in this movie, and we talked about this in her actual video where it was Sheila and Troy and everything, Sheila in this movie was just not nearly as likable, and I felt she was very tacky. Now, everybody knows from the first movie that Gavin and Patricia have lost a child and that their marriage to this point has survived the loss of this child in a car accident where the car was driven by Patricia and she forgot to buckle the kid in, and the kid, Noah, died. So this is obviously traumatic, but what does Sheila say?
When are you going to have another baby, Pat? That's not going to happen.
She's all like, when you going to have another baby? And
Is that tacky?
I just think that it's a touchy subject after the loss of a child, no matter how you lost the child.
Yeah,
right?
but it's been 8 years. It's been 8 years, right? And she is being a friend to try to help her, even though she's not the psychologist or whatever, psychiatrist either, to say, hey, maybe you should have another baby. Maybe that could help. You know what I'm saying? That's why she's like, come on.
I guess she's trying to move forward, but the level, I just think there was a lack of sensitivity, and the case in point for this for me is how I felt that she had a lack of sensitivity about Angela and her drinking and what she says later on in the movie to her. I'm talking about Sheila. And how she's just like, maybe if you out your mind most of the time, you should rethink everything you said. So the Sheila in Why Did I Get Married 2 is not nearly as sympathetic to me. But so she says to her friend, Patricia, hey, when you gonna have another baby, kind of in the light and joking way. And I don't know. I'm sensitive about how she approached her on this. And then Pat is like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and then tries to change the subject.
And you could see the pain in her voice when she says that's not going to happen. Now, we don't know why it's not going to happen. Are you feeling, at this point in the movie, are you feeling like you've tried and it's not working? There could be so many reasons, which goes back to the point of why it's a rude question.
Since it's a sequel, we kind of can guess from the first film where basically it's because of Noah and she hasn't gotten past it. Even in the first film, she didn't get past it. So
Oh, come on. You should. How's the house?
Yeah. So that's what we
But
see.
I
Of
don't know.
them.
Is it cheap to just keep bringing it up like this?
Is
That
it
kind of happened
cheap?
with Gavin and Terry in the first film.
I don't know, because I feel like this is huge. The loss of the child is huge. It definitely is the reason why a person might not really be able to move forward with their life. And so I kind of feel like it might be appropriate.
Yeah, I guess, but I think it's just to remind us, soon as they show up, let's remind you that their kid,
Yeah.
died in an accident.
Yeah. That's true. I guess he's getting right to the drama.
So then that gives you some impression of the character Sheila, because you're just trying to get this out.
That's true.
As a writer. Yeah.
I've searched and searched for reasons and understanding of these women. I get nothing.
So then when the guys are all there, all the couples have arrived at this retreat, and they're outside on the beach with the jet skis and everything. They're talking.
I come home, she's watching a dog food commercial and starts crying.
And they're discussing about their wives being pregnant or whatever. And Gavin says, oh, yeah, well, back when Patricia was pregnant with their son, Noah, she was, emotionally tells this story basically about how she was crying one minute and then basically cussing him out the next minute or whatever. And then he makes this statement.
Oh, you know what? There's sides of that woman you've never seen, trust me.
There's sides of that woman that you haven't seen, because especially Troy was like, Patricia, she doesn't even cuss, like, what's up? And then, of course, Terry speaks up and he's like, oh, I seen the side of her, talking about way back when they were in college. And apparently Gavin had told Patricia that he was at work, but he was really in the back seat with
Martina Jimenez.
Yeah.
Martina Jimenez, you and her in the back seat. You told Patricia you was at work.
But in the first film, they were talking about, oh, so you haven't cheated, right? And him, Gavin and Terry both said no. And I guess they meant since marriage. So I guess it doesn't count if you weren't officially married yet.
Go to the comments. Does that count as that he cheated if they weren't yet married? Do you, because clearly they were together. But do you consider that as a history of cheating in the relationship?
You get all the freebies until you just get married. Oh, so that's how. Oh, okay, that's how it works. You just do all you can, and when she's really about to leave you, you propose, get married, and it's a fresh start.
You know what? It's people who I've heard do that. Like, I've seen those kind of situations, like the whole marriage thing is like the last ditch effort to hang on to the woman after you've just acted a total fool.
Yeah, because let's say you put in 2-3 years, right? And then you might leave this guy, and then you got to start over, maybe take a year to find another guy, then 2-3 more years to get to the level of marriage, right? So one just might as well marry the guy who you've been with.
Well, not even just that, right? But I mean, there's emotions involved, right? Clearly, the woman probably loves the guy and everything. And, if she's putting up with mess from him. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, let's say they've been together 10 years, right? And what he said was, he searched and searched for reason and understanding in these women, and he came up with nothing. You're just talking about one woman. And a lot of times these discussions like this, if you got people like, oh, I only been with one woman or one man, and everything you have to say about the other gender is based on your relationship with this one person. Because let's say it's not just this, and it was the ones before they got married. You probably were married longer than you were not. So you were probably, let's just say your college years, those 4 years of whatever, immaturity that you're taking into account and be like, I can't find understanding in women. No, you can't find understanding in your woman.
But it's funny that you bring that up, because I imagine all the ways that we do that in our lives, right? Because like, if even if you think about your parents or your siblings, right? You only get one mother and one father usually. And so it's like, if you're thinking what a father should be or what a mother should be is going to be strictly kind of based on what your experience was. And that's very anecdotal, and it can, range broadly in terms of, what mothers or fathers are like. So, so that's interesting.
And then when you throw in, the astrology, then they're like, I was with a Pisces one time.
Yeah. Yeah. Go to the comments and let us know, like, do you believe in astrology? Do you feel like, oh yeah, because I'm this sign or that sign? Interestingly, my sign nobody ever talks about. I won't say what. You can take a guess
You
in
on
the
the wrong
comments.
part of the internet.
I never
It's
see anybody
mine
talk
that
about
never
sign. No,
talked
I see
about.
them talk about your sign all the time, and they're talking about creativity or this or that. And then I see them talk about every sign except my sign. I rarely hear anybody ever talk about my sign. You could take a guess at what you think my sign is, and take a guess at Heit's sign in the comments. And
You already
maybe
told them, but
did I tell them?
you said creativity.
Well, I mean, who knows what the horoscope for the day might say about it?
Yeah, but generally they just
well, take a
big
guess and we'll see how good
stereotypes.
you guys are. But either way, the point is that, like, if you're, how does astrology play into it? And I've noticed that a lot of people feel like, if you're this sign and this is why, and they have these whole things about, compatibility and how people behave on the basis
and personality.
when they were born. I'm not sold, but but yeah, it's a big thing. But it's interesting because I feel like it's not as big of a thing as it used to be, like maybe in the 80s when I was growing up. Because I remember what's your sign being like when I was a younger kid, like that was apparent. I would see that and hear that a lot. Whereas now I don't think that's part of this normal, everyday, regular conversation.
Huh.
But back in the day, it was like, the little fourth grader, the little third grader. What's your name? What's your sign?
Bro.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seemed to be bigger in culture in that way. And
I don't know. I think the internet or new social media has brought it back a lot. Because it's very easy to get engagement if you just throw something about a sign on a meme, and then people are going to start sharing it and stuff.
That part is true, and of course we have nothing to compare it with because we didn't have the internet back then. But yeah. So back to Patricia and Gavin, because I got a little bit sidetracked. But they're talking about her being pregnant and her being emotional, and even Marcus said that Patricia was worse than Angela in her anger and how wild she was or whatever when she caught them together. And they argued whether she was as bad as Angela or not. But that's interesting because the Patricia we see today, no one would believe that she would behave in such a way, right? She's very demure and well-mannered and seemingly kind of on the more quiet side of things, and definitely laid back, and you don't see her shaking the table in any way.
This is Tyler Perry's way of letting us know that
she has that in her.
Wow, in this movie.
Yes, but you know what else too? I think it gives us an insight. The comment about when she was pregnant and her being emotional during the pregnancy gives us insight into how that, like, she had real experiences, real women experiences that were typical, because in the movie and in the series and up to this point in the previous movie, she is very robotic in a lot of ways and very analytical and not emotional, right? And so this to me was validating, hey, before this tragic event in their lives happened of the loss of their child, she probably was a very different person. At least that's how I choose to look at it.
You start all of my arguments.
Me?
Yes.
Why?
So we also get to see that the ladies are inside having a conversation, and Angela is reading Patricia's latest book called He Cheated, So Now What?
Your book? He cheated, so now what?
Now, girl, did you get the story from like what happened with Sheila and Mike from the last retreat? Because we know you're doing experiments on your unethical experiments. I shouldn't say experiments, an unethical study and / possibly experiment on your own friends. So where did you get the motivation to write this particular book? But anyway, so they're discussing this book, and Angela's, talking about it and everything with her. And in the book, it said, she's like, well, case in point, she doesn't have the password to her husband's cell phone because she trusts him. So in other words, Patricia is saying she doesn't have Gavin's cell phone password because she trusts Gavin, which is very interesting because at the same time, we just heard that Gavin had cheated when they were in college, but she trusts him. And we also know from the last movie that, well, this must be, I trust him in this, maybe in this area, maybe she trusts that he's not cheating, but she certainly doesn't trust him with her full self, her full feelings. And we know that because of how she was in the last movie, right? Very bottled up. She wasn't expressing herself to him, and he was fighting for her to let him in. And we had a whole conversation on whether or not you have your spouse's passwords and stuff in previous videos.
Yeah.
Namely the video on Angela and Marcus. So be sure to check that out too.
And Angela said, that meant that I don't trust him, so I need his cell phone password, which is great logic. It makes sense because her book is He Cheated, so now what? It's instructional.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And she asked, Patricia was like, why would you do that? Right.
So I took that to mean that if I don't trust him, then I should have it.
Because your book is telling me what to do. It's like, hey, all the other stuff in the book that I tell you to do. But if I don't explicitly tell you to do it, then don't do it. Like,
it's implied, right? With the logic of, hey, if I don't trust him, I should have the password, right?
Yeah,
it
especially on the instructional book that you write. I'm supposing it's instructional.
And you should know this. And this is back to the whole thing about, like, you should know as a doctor what the effect that your advice is having on other people. And I think this was a good example for her to see it, but I don't think it doesn't penetrate, right?
Yeah.
Because she totally writes it off and acts like Angela is the nutso.
Yeah, but it may also show about, the authors and, you a doctor and you're in your field, you're teaching stuff. And part of that, of your career is writing books. And it's just, hey, I just write books and the consequences, or how it affects other people isn't really of substance, or I really don't care. It doesn't matter that much to me, right?
This is all part of me just getting tenure.
Yeah, I'm just writing some stuff and, selling it.
Exactly. So, of course, as the ladies are talking, Mike decides to crash the party. He shows up unexpectedly and everybody's looking crazy. And the only one who actually really confronts him is Angela, as usual. They go on about their business and the ladies are left to kind of figure out how they're going to handle this unexpected event at their couples retreat.
He's not staying.
He can't stay. He can't.
Cheri.
So after Mike goes outside and shows up and the guys see him, then, they all wind up coming back inside because they know that the women are probably upset and whatever. And so when they're coming in, you see Angela saying, he can't stay. And then, so nobody wants him to be there. And then Patricia says what I think is like the most sensible thing said in this scene is maybe we should just leave.
Well, maybe we should leave then.
I'm with you.
No, guys, we spent our last to be here. We're not leaving.
We talked extensively about the fact that Mike is here, nobody wants him here, and they're acting like there's nothing they can do and that their friends just have to deal with this menace.
Right. And then the conversation just goes off the rails. And, Gavin's like, we're all adults here. We can try to control him.
Yeah.
Like, what?
We know there's no controlling Mike. He's wild and out of control.
Yeah, that's just stupid. And then Patricia is like, hey, Gavin's got a point. We need to be rational.
Hold on, you guys. Hold on. Gavin's got a point. We really need to be rational about this.
I don't think they know what rational means because the conversation goes off the rail again. Because rational is not allowing him to stay there.
Right.
Or leave, right? Like,
it's like they're taking rational to mean
cordial,
to be
or
that, or non-responsive, benign. Whereas rational, it means that we need to do what makes sense for the situation.
They mean not confronting him, basically.
Yeah. And so, but what's interesting is that Gavin makes this big production, and he's like, my wife agrees with me.
My wife agrees with me.
And it's like, bro, we're talking about this whole situation with Mike crashing the party in the uncomfortable way that Shirley, Troy, and Sheila are feeling as a result. And suddenly you bust out with, my wife agrees with me. Like, clearly there's something going on between the two of them that he felt the need to say this. So I guess she doesn't agree with him most of the time when they're not in front of people.
So I didn't mention it before, but why these dudes ain't got no clothes on?
Because they were on the beach.
Yeah.
I mean,
so why Janet Jackson titties out? See?
Because
this is a movie.
So they were okay. So maybe before
Terry got a shirt on.
So I have a theory. Maybe in the first movie they weren't expecting it to be kind of like the hit that it kind of became. You know, people really liked it. So then, you know, the second one is really anticipated, and you know, all the dudes like worked out extra. Now I'm sure Michael Jai White didn't work out that much extra because he, you know, it seemed to be kind of a martial artist and athlete prior to this. But, you know, maybe Malik Yoba did. And, you know, all of them wanted to be able to be without their shirts on.
And then you had Tasha Smith running on the beach later on.
Yeah, in a bikini. Yeah. So, but, you know, hey, I have to say, you know, they all looked great for their ages and stuff. So not just for their ages, they looked great, period. But yeah, so anyway, so that's a drug. But what I do appreciate about the Tyler Perry films is that
he gonna make it for the women.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. But also just that it's like not this gratuitous nudity mess that you have to deal with.
Just the crazy, unneeded X scenes.
Yeah, but he gives you a little bit. You know, like he allows the actors to, you know, be appealing and have some sex appeal. But it doesn't have to just go completely off the rails. Yeah.
And he's really doing religious movies, you know, too. And he's throwing that little in there, throwing in some cussing,
throwing a little bit of the world in there.
Yeah.
You know, but I like that, and it certainly makes the editing easier because I can't even begin to tell you how hard it was. You know, we did another video, the Players Club, on our other channel. By the way, you can check that out if you haven't seen it. We'll put a link in the description. But, you know, and with all the nudity in that movie, it's just like very hard, you know, because there was just even sometimes I would look at a scene and like way in the background, not the focal point of the scene. And then you're trying to, you know, not have that be shown. Yeah. But anyway, so we understand now that there's some tension between Pat and Gavin, you know, just still more little hints.
Hey, why didn't Troy come?
Well, you gotta ask. You sit next to our house guest over there.
So the guys go on a fishing trip, guys minus Troy, because Troy is, you know, in his room
he's crying in the room.
I know, and broke because they spent their last to be on this trip. But these guys don't care. They're all loyal to Mike, who's allowed to just go on the trip and have beers and just have a great time.
That's them being rational. Let's let Mike come on to this fishing trip and have Troy sitting in the cabana or whatever.
I know, and just, you know, edged out of the friend group. This is where we realize that Gavin is messy, because Mike is obsessing over whether or not Sheila misses him. And, you know, everybody...
Does it have to be voluntary to be messy?
Yeah. He is voluntarily messy.
What? I didn't get...
Gavin is...
Going.
Let me tell you.
Just explain.
Gavin is voluntarily messy because they're talking... So Mike is all like, did she miss me? She missed me.
I don't care what y'all say. Sheila missed me.
And then Gavin butts in, and Gavin is like, Sheila told Patricia that she is happily married.
Sheila told Pat is that she's happily married.
And then he's like, despite the fact that Troy doesn't have a job.
Happily married in spite of the fact that he hasn't found a job yet.
He can't find a job. Yeah.
But why did you have to? You did not have to say that.
He's showing how happy she is.
No. He was being messy to throw a little bit of shade to make it, you know, to give a little drama. To say that this man, so Sheila now,
no, that is not
Sheila
what
was
happened.
with you, Mike, who has all this money, but then she divorced you, and now she's with Troy, who ain't got no job.
Oh, you mean it was trying to be a dig to Mike?
It was a dig to Troy.
What?
Because why would you, or you know
because
what? Actually,
that's how,
I won't say it was a dig to Troy. It was.
He don't have a job. And she's happy with him, but you had a job in everything and she wasn't happy with you.
Okay, I could see it that way. I was going to say maybe it was an involuntary dig. It wasn't that he was meaning it to be directed at Troy. Because now that I think of it, I don't think that he was trying to be mean to Troy. I think it was just irrelevant, the effect that it would have on Troy when you out him for not having a job.
Yeah,
because you wanted
it depends
to discuss,
how you look at it.
You
too.
wanted to kiki with the guys and just discuss the fact that, you know, and
just
be
how
messy.
you look at it too. Because everybody don't be like, oh, there's something negative about this guy because he hasn't found a job, right?
But he knows Mike, and he knew that if he told Mike this guy didn't have a job, that would facilitate the conversation and the messiness that ensued.
He don't got no job. Where he laying on the couch?
Maybe he wasn't thinking about it, right? Consciously.
So you're saying he was unconsciously messy?
No, some things you don't understand the effects until after you said it, right? You may know Mike and then you say something you like, dang, I told Mike this.
I shouldn't have said that. Okay, I'm willing to say that it wasn't deliberate, but either way, Gavin is messy.
What?
Gavin is messy either deliberately or not deliberate. Go to the comments and tell us.
Messy? Like,
yes, kids can be messy.
Not can be. Kids who just say anything because they don't know about whether or not how it's going to affect the relationships of the adults.
Then I would say this. Yes, with the
They'd be
caveat that
the kid like, yeah, my uncle come to the house every day that daddy go to work. Right? Is that them being messy or that's just them?
That's them not knowing. That's them opening their mouth too much about stuff.
Yeah, so you can't call it messy.
They don't know any better.
That's what I'm saying about Gavin. You can't say what he did was messy because there's intent needs to be there.
I'm willing to take that under under consideration. I'll take that under consideration. I will, because I mean I feel the logic on that as far as the intent is concerned. But I think the intent here was to have, to just have this back and forth banter, right? The intent was like, well, let me drop this over here and see what happens. No, I'm dropping this
to tell you that she is happy.
Bruh.
You messed up. She happy.
Listen, if you listen to how it goes down in the scene, he's like, she's a happily married woman. He's already said it. So he's made it clear that she's happy. But then he comes behind it and he's like, well, Sheila told Patricia.
Well, he started asking about if she's been asking about him.
Oh, that she's a happily married woman, despite, and just the way he says it, despite the fact that he doesn't have a job or,
Go to the comments. Do you think he was intentionally being messy?
But yeah, so now Troy is made to look, and look at how the conversation goes. They're like basically like she got a deadbeat on the couch, kind of like, and then of course
no,
Terry.
That's Mike saying that.
Yeah, Mike says that, and then of course Terry is like no, it's not like that at all. It's just that they moved, and he's explaining it. But at the end of the day, the conclusion is that there is a loss of respect on some level for Troy because he's unemployed. Like, let's just keep that real. There's a loss or a lack of respect on some level.
That still depends on the individual. This isn't just a broad thing, right? Maybe by Mike.
Well, Mike didn't know. So when he found out,
That's why I'm saying where you lose respect because of it depends on the person's personality and character, beliefs and morals, right?
I agree with that.
Because if somebody tell me this, I'm not going to lose any respect for somebody who moved somewhere and can't find a job.
Having trouble finding a job. But with this group of guys, maybe minus Marcus, because Marcus
What about Terry, who's like, no, because he is looking for a job.
I think Terry's a phony Roni, and I don't think Terry, what comes out of his mouth is necessarily how he feels inside. I think it's just Terry is politically correct. So he's like, no, let me defend this guy. Wink, wink.
Well, then, but that's your actions. That's a whole different discussion. Philosophical discussion.
Yeah. So anyway, so they have this whole thing on this boat, and it's focusing on Gavin in this situation. I do feel Gavin was messy, and I don't know if I'm going to, my idea of feeling about that is going to change. Because I'm like, well, Gavin, this was just unnecessary. This was unnecessary. You did not have to say that, because then the tension that happens later that we see is really like Gavin's fault, because he didn't have to say that.
Yeah. What about his wife?
Patricia for telling Gavin?
Yeah. What about Sheila for telling Patricia, who would tell Gavin, who would then tell Mike? See,
okay. So let us get this out in the open, because we sort of touched on it in the last video where we were talking about Terry and Diane, and I mentioned how there was this meme that was like, I don't trust y'all couple friends because you're going to tell your spouse everything, right? And so was it wrong for Patricia to share that with Gavin, or is that just part of the openness of the relationship? And I agree. I think couples do share.
Yeah, but okay, those are relationships, right? So the relationship between the married couple, right? You have your boundaries. You tell each other whatever, right? And then you have to know what the secrets are or the private data, right? What a privacy is. And then between the husband and his homeboy, there needs to be a thing, right? Can I tell Mike this? Can I tell Terry this, right? Also.
Right, and it's not going to go any further.
Yeah, but it's up to the person who is in all of those different relationships to be able to know what not to leak out of that particular relationship. So if you know that the secret should be between the husband and the wife, then you should not go to the homeboy and say it. But there are some things that your wife tells you that it's fine to tell your homeboy.
Yeah. I mean, and then, or even stuff that's like casual things that, oh yeah, I was talking to so-and-so, that this is, I was talking to my friend so-and-so and she, oh, this is what happened. And can you believe, that kind of stuff. I mean, that happens all the time, but you're right. I mean, just figuring out what is the private data, as you said.
Yeah. But you need to, it depends on how well you know their spouse too, or their significant other, because you need to know if you tell this person, will it get out from the person who they inevitably going to tell. You might as well assume that they're going to tell their other half because it's one person basically.
Yeah, and I feel like when it comes to spouse stuff like that that relationship has so many different levels, right? Because you have the friendship of it, you have the romance of it, you have the just this is your person of it all. Even though you might have friends and your your friends outside of that, I just look at it like that this is the person who when I just think about it like if what if I have to vent or whatever, then I'm venting to you about something, or can you believe that?
You don't have to worry about it because I'm not even gonna
you're not
remember.
Chatty like that, and I'm grateful.
I'm probably just tuned you out, so I'm not going to share any of that, y'all.
But see, this is I think this happens to a lot of wives. But when it comes to that, because I also think that the fine details of stuff, men and women have different levels of tolerance and desire to know, and that's just the fact of the matter. And that's just a generalization. I know not every woman is chatty, and not every but in general, I just think that's what the dynamic is. So, hey, you're venting, but what if you're venting to somebody who's not fully listening? Then, then it just goes to the wind, but you feel heard.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I don't know. You're going back to this point about, so was Patricia wrong for letting her husband know that this is what was said?
No, see, I was about to get into finances, but y'all like to do the finances different, where I have my own money and the other person have their own money, because it can be things like the other person knows almost everything because, hey, I need to let you know this because what if we want to help them out financially?
Right.
As a couple. Right. But if you're like, hey, I got my own money, he got his own money, then that stuff probably won't even come up because all that is siloed. Well, I don't even tell you how much money I make.
Yeah. And I think, so this is a whole nother discussion I wasn't expecting to have. But that's very interesting. Because when you think about it, Sheila was saying in the movie, and we talk about this in detail in her video, but she was like, oh, I'll just borrow money from Patricia or Angela. Right. And so would Patricia or Angela tell that they had borrowed money because Troy doesn't have a job? Would they tell their spouse? Well, would Gavin know? Would he not
we'll see later with Patricia. We'll see how they're handling their money.
But I don't know. I don't judge how anybody else handles the money, but I feel like it just is harder when you're the word you used was siloed. But I just think it's hard to be siloed. But a lot of that depends on the responsibility of each partner, because everybody doesn't have the same philosophy about how to spend money and how to save money and what money should be spent on. So if you are, I've had, friends or whatever whose spouses are he's a saver, she's a spender, or vice versa, and that causing a whole lot of conflict. I mean, in fact, I think they said that money and money problems are the number one reason for divorce.
Yeah, so, but it should be broken down further into whether or not they're sharing finances or not, too. Is it mostly because you're not, or because you are combining?
Yeah, and
You
I
know?
mean, yeah, I could see to me combining it is easy, but then
It
it's
causes
only
more
easy.
problems, probably, in a sense.
Well,
If you have enough, it may cause more problems, right? Because how it's being spent. But if you don't have enough, then it can cause problems if there's being split. Because, hey, I ain't got enough for the bills this month, but you do. You know?
Yeah, I mean, so I just think it's I think it depends on how each of the partners looks at money in terms of how they spend, and also how much money each of the partners might be bringing to the table.
It's so much.
It's complex, it's complex, and a lot of people feel like, hey, the money I make is my money, it ain't our money.
Right. And then throw in the old archaic values of who should be making the money and who should be providing what. Then it's
And the value of other, the value of other things. Because, like, while we're on the subject of Sheila and Troy, Sheila has a baby and she stays at home and she doesn't work. But does that mean that she doesn't make a contribution to the family that can be translated into monetary terms? Of course it can. The question is how much, because I'm gonna give you, if Sheila wasn't there to take care of the baby, somebody would have to do it, and childcare is high.
And in this film, Sheila and Troy's problems are about money or lack thereof.
So let's keep on, because we're going to find out about this money split.
Smell wrong? How would Mike just show up like that? Because he's a damn fool.
The women are talking about, why is Mike showing up? I can't believe that Mike showed up.
Yeah,
And
they're out on a spa date while Troy is still back in the room.
But why is Patricia like, sometimes when we haven't dealt with things in our lives, they tend to show up?
And sometimes when we haven't dealt with things in our lives, they tend to show up.
He's just blaming Sheila for Mike showing up when she is the one who still hasn't dealt with things in her life, still don't even deal with the things in her relationship or anything.
Well, maybe
but
because she wrote that book for Sheila, and Sheila didn't read that book like Angela is reading it. And so she's like low-key salty about it.
Yeah. You done blame Sheila for Mike showing up, and you not saying, hey, any other time you trying to tell everybody what to do. The first movie, no, she's not ready. No, she's not ready. But when you were like, maybe we should leave, then everybody's like, let's be rational. You like, yeah, I'm not going to stand on leaving.
But you know what's funny? Because when she said that statement of when we haven't dealt with things in our lives, they tend to show up. I completely did not relate that to Mike showing up. I was thinking in a more abstract terms, where I'm thinking of like the things that we haven't dealt with in our lives, like, oh, they haven't dealt with the money, or they haven't addressed the, obvious elephant in the room between Sheila and Troy, the, strain on their marriage because of the money problems, that sort of thing. Right. And then, of course, she's dropping hints to her own personal problems. Patricia is.
Yeah,
so
clever writing,
that was how I took it. But then I'm like,
that's what it is. But it's that it says something about her character because it's in the context of talking about Mike coming here. So you're blaming Sheila.
Well, what I also don't like is that Patricia acts like she has a crystal ball, because in this conversation, she goes on to say, well, this man has so much on his mind and he probably feels bad that he can't give you what you're used to.
And this man has so much on his mind and he probably feels really bad that he can't give you what you're used to.
And then Sheila responds like, hey, but, I never made him feel bad about that or made a big deal about that and whatever.
Societal class currency, right?
True.
Social currency. Knowing that somebody don't have a job is something. So it doesn't matter what the spouse does or says or none of that, right? He's going to feel some way about other people with their thoughts knowing
and
this.
His own expectations of what a man is supposed to be able to provide. And he seems clearly rather traditional because, from the first movie, Sheriff Troy was like the knight in shining armor on the white horse that came in to save her.
And Angela was right before she went off the rocker. She said, all that man needs is a job. That's it.
Well, and then so Patricia does go on to say, but this is what he thinks.
I don't care about that stuff anyway. Yeah, but see, that doesn't matter. This is what he thinks. And
But I mean, how do you know what's going on for sure? Because she pushes back on what Sheila said to say, but this is what he thinks. Like, how do you know what Troy thinks? You don't know what Troy thinks. You don't even really know Troy like that.
I think she hates Sheila.
Shut up.
You just like, no, at any chance I get, I'm blaming Sheila.
You think she hates Sheila?
Like, come on. Sheila's like, but I didn't do this, but he thinks it, so it's your fault. You the reason Mike here. You the reason Troy is feeling like this.
Well, I think she feels Okay, so let's think about this. I think that she feels Sheila is wrong. And I agree, because to me, in this movie, Sheila was real wrong on a lot of things that we discussed in full detail. But more than that, I just think Sheila is out of touch with other people's what's going on with them, right? She is, because in the first movie, she was very focused on herself, rightfully so, because everything in her life was exploding. But we don't really see that change here in this movie.
Yeah.
And so she can see her position, but she ain't even thinking about, like, you're here getting your feet done while your man is in the room by himself and you enjoying this retreat. Like,
did they? I don't know. Did she know he wasn't going?
Of course she knew he wasn't going. She knew, listen, she knew the condition her man was in when he was like, I don't appreciate you saying.
Maybe they went to the spa and they didn't know that Mike was going at the time. And then Troy just like, yeah, I'm going to just stay here.
It's a couples retreat. And your man is not doing good right now.
Yeah, but
why are you just like content to go,
but
to go
she
talk
don't
about
know,
him in the
it's
situation
not necessary
with these women?
that she knew that he didn't go on a fishing trip. Is all I'm
so
saying.
Maybe she didn't know. Maybe
but
she didn't know.
it's possible that she did know.
But then you left him with these pariahs. You left him with the other men who are not his friends. Clearly, because they didn't make Mike leave.
You should be on a trip.
Shouldn't have spent your last to come dealing with this mess. But yeah, so Patricia is here though, and she's, giving her doctorly advice about everything. And it's funny because when we were playing this, you were like, Patricia makes me sick. And I was like, yeah, she make me sick too. She was making me sick in the last movie, but she was really making me sick to this point in this movie. Because again, we're getting the know-it-all. I have it together. I'm telling everybody about their life. And, we know her mess is not just pristine.
Even without that, I don't want to hear you.
You just want her to shut up.
Yeah.
So they go on a talk, and Patricia turns her attention to Angela and the problems that she's having with Marcus and stuff like that. And then she accuses Angela of being jealous of Marcus because Marcus got the job now. Angela's making less money, et cetera, et cetera.
You sound so jealous.
I'm not jealous.
Then she goes on to say to Angela, you just want to be in control of the relationship, and now you're taking it out on him. And I'm like, well, is this true? Or are you speaking your personal truth and you're talking to Angela at the same time? Because clearly Angela did kind of want to control things. But at the same time, is this what's going on with you too, Patricia?
No, I don't know.
Not the jealous part, but just the part about wanting to control.
Well, that's what she's doing at these retreats. She's trying to control all that. You're trying to control you're dominating this conversation and I guess being the moral authority of this, right? Oh, let me tell you this and this and this and this. And then she's like, I'm a doctor. This is what I do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Angela was just like, oh, you have the answer for everybody. It's know it all, basically.
Yeah.
But I like Angela's response. Like, let me get a couple of drinks in y'all, and then we'll see what's really going on. Now, that should have been the actual movie right there.
Let me get a few drinks up in y'all, and then we'll see what's really going on.
Right? And then throughout the movie, a bunch of ridiculousness just comes out between the couples. Kind of like the first movie, but not all at a table, right? Just throughout, we just start to reveal it. And I guess that's what he tried to do with the scenes that are coming up at night, but it just still didn't hit the same.
I'm looking at least 3 books in your hand right there, sir.
Mike.
So later on, as we knew would happen, when all the couples are out in the evening playing some spades or whatever, Mike is going to use the information that he's found out earlier, thanks to Gavin's messiness, against Troy. And so Mike starts talking, he's not playing the game Troy's playing, but he's over Troy's shoulder saying things and whatever and commenting. And then Gavin is like, why don't we go for a walk, man? Kind of like trying to keep it from exploding and, because he can see that this is a problem. But
why don't we go take the sidewalk? Why would we do that?
Gavin, don't be trying to act like now you want to save it after, it's because of you that this man even
maybe
has
that's
this
why he feels that responsibility now.
Maybe it is. You might be right.
He's like, come on, man, let's go for this walk. Because they were like, he was the one talking about, we can try to control him. We're adults. And now you're trying to control him. Yeah, but you're not doing a good job at that.
At all. So, of course, as we knew would happen, he confronts Troy with the information about him not having a job. And
Weak.
How's the job search?
yeah, and he gets his feelings hurt at the end of it all.
Sit there, nurse your little fruit juice, and leave me and mine the hell alone.
And then he finally gets up and decides to walk away, and Gavin walks away with him.
But why is that such a big deal how this whole group made it? He was like, how's the job search? And then everybody's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, a collective gasp. Like, just asking. Think about it. Like, let's say, because nobody, maybe all the wives, the husbands went and told that Gavin told. Right? Because
so
other than that,
anticipating it.
Other than that, it's just, because they allowed him to be there. Other than that, it's just a kind of an innocent question, no matter who it's coming from. How's the job search? Oh, I ain't find a job yet. The end, but around reasonable people.
Yeah.
Right? But this group is like, oh my God, he ain't found a job yet.
The mood, it was like you could cut the tension with a knife. The mood clearly changed as soon as Mike started ramping up, with his mess. But this could all been avoided actually even before Gavin told. It could y'all should have just kicked Mike out. Why is he even there?
Yeah. And Mike's out here and we're trying to play cards. Let's move. And every time he goes somewhere, you just leave. That's how you do it.
But in the end, this is still your friend. More of your friend than Sheila. More of your friend than Troy, certainly, because you really don't know Troy like that. But, it ain't right. So everybody's trying to sleep at night. And who is in there arguing but Gavin and Patricia? And I could pick up a few of the little words that they were saying. Like I could hear him saying something about, I was hoping to build our relationship. And she was like, I'm not going through this.
Sounds like Patricia.
And then, they were clearly loud and arguing. And then finally, I did hear her say, keep your voice down, to him. So even that says a lot,
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And Terry was like, is that Marcus and Angela?
Marcus and Angela.
Yeah, and Diane was like, no, that's Patricia's voice. And Terry's like, I'll go. Diane say, no, I'll go.
I'll go, babe.
No. I'll go.
Why does anybody need to go anywhere? Because a couple is arguing.
So you telling me we hear people arguing, we at the couples retreat, we just gonna still lay in the bed and be like, all right, good night.
What I'm gonna do, get up and be like, hey, I hear y'all in here arguing. Now argue with me because you're upset. Like, what?
So the thing is, if it's just yelling, I'm more apt to stay out of it too. Now, if it sounds like it's furniture in there moving, then, I'm gonna go see what's up.
But people argue. What am I supposed to do?
Stay out of that. That ain't your business. But, Diane doesn't stay out of it. She goes out into the hallway where she bumps into Patricia, who is trying to go downstairs. Then she's just like, was that you arguing in there?
Yeah.
Did I just hear you guys arguing in there? No.
But anyway, I don't care about none of it. Basically, the conversation is that Diane is like, you're bottling things up. You need to tell people.
You can't spend your entire life just holding everything inside.
Diane, I know that.
But she's like, no, I'm okay. I'm not bottling things up, and all of that.
I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
So Patricia is supposed to be emblematic of that, person who bottled things up and what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But Tyler Perry, I'm going to just say at this time, wasn't the king of subtlety. And it's just like, come on now. Okay, people hold things in to this extent, how she won't just be like, yes, we were arguing.
Well, it's almost like a misuse of dialogue here, because some things are so obvious that I don't know that you have to say it, right? Because clearly Patricia has lied to her face. Everybody heard you arguing, and she's like, was that you arguing? And she's like, no, it wasn't. We were not arguing. We are fine. Clearly you're not fine. So, but the point is that Patricia is, her mask is just so big and strong that she's not even going to admit that there are any cracks in what's going on. And I think it could have been more appropriate if she was just like, girl, I don't even want to talk about it right now.
Or,
and
just like everybody, like probably in your book, everybody couple, everybody argue, everybody have problems every once in a while. We just had a little argument, right? And then that's it. But you're still bottling up everything. And then later on, when we see what happened, that's extreme too. But then we see, oh, this is what happens when you don't talk about things that's going on.
Go through these. It's gonna drive you crazy. That was foreshadowing, right? Because that's what Diane says. You keep everything bottled up, it's gonna drive you crazy.
You're gonna lose your mind keeping all that stuff in.
And essentially, as we see the movie unfold.
So many clues. There's too many clues, right? Because when Terry was talking, he's like, oh, I've seen a side of her that most people ain't seen. Or, Gavin's like, she got a side that y'all ain't seen. And then Terry, I've seen that side.
Maybe Why Did I Get Married Too was really a thriller about how Patricia just goes nuts and crazy.
Yeah, it was. I guess when you got all these stories, it's too much going on to make it just that. But
yeah. But the other thing that I think we should take away too is that she does not want the comfort of a friend. Diane is trying to go downstairs like, let me just be there for you, be your sounding board, whatever it is. Let me just go downstairs with you and drink some hot milk or whatever she was talking about, or some water, whatever. But
no, but I was going to go get some water. I'll go with you. No.
She tells Diane, no, basically, take your butt back to bed.
Please, go back to bed, okay?
She's very guarded. She does not want comfort. She just wants you to get the heck away from her and leave her alone.
So what does she tell her husband?
Who?
You remember you were talking about, women vent sometimes or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
What does she tell her husband? She just rambled down other people's problems.
Diane, you mean what does Diane tell her?
No, Patricia.
What does Patricia tell Gavin as in their pillow talk? I don't think Patricia tells Gavin much.
She just be like, Sheila moved to Atlanta with Troy and he ain't got no job.
Well, that is true. She does.
But see, that's what I'm saying. Like, does she just tell other people's problems and that's her venting? Like, what's?
Yeah, that probably is. Well, because you
know
enough about. You can talk about. See, the thing is this: if you are a guarded person, then you, by this age that she is, have mastered the art of letting people talk about themselves, and they feel like they have an amazing relationship with you, and at the end of the day they really don't even know you because you haven't given up much of yourself. And I feel like that's who Patricia is. She lets everybody else tell all of their problems. You remember every time you see her sitting, she's never talking about herself. It's always, I'm observing this person, I'm there for this person, I'm listening to this person. And it's fun for her because it's her career and everything. But at the end of the day, that's who she is. So she's never going to let anybody in. And clearly she probably hasn't let Gavin in. That whole scene where he's like, let me be there for you. And he's crying and everything at the end of the last movie. She just seems incapable.
We can make it through. Baby, I'll be there for you no matter what.
So in terms of characters, we talk about Diane being kind of more reserved and stuff and not really sharing that much in those conversations. It's better for her to have been the more like this, right? Because how it is she's the career woman who having these problems, right? Because she's the career woman and her husband wants a different type of woman, maybe, right? But then you also threw in, she's not sharing, maybe unintentionally, she's not sharing that much amongst the discussions.
Because you never tell anybody your problems.
Which would make it easier to be like, hey, this is the character who is more guarded and is not willing to share what's, more personal things with just the friends. Instead of the outgoing doctor. Because, see, that makes it even more extreme.
Well, and I think we have to keep in mind that, like, Patricia and Diane were roommates, and so they are closer as friends than the rest of the friends group, I think. From Diane's perspective, like Diane would say she's the closest to Patricia out of everybody in the group, out of the girls, right? And so
but I'm talking about from the standpoint of who's willing to share things, right?
And I think she's willing to share with her. She's willing to share with Patricia, just not with the whole group,
but I'm saying as looking at the film, I think it would make more sense as the person who we see not sharing much throughout would be the person who is guarded and not sharing.
Yeah.
As opposed to the outward person who is, I don't know, you're just outgoing or whatever.
Mhm.
And then you're holding in everything about yourself, and then it just blows up. Like, it's too many extremes stacked.
That's true. That is now that is Tyler Perry, right? But I guess that's what makes, you need these extreme character. I don't know if I'd say they're flaws, but these character flaws, so to speak, to create all of the explosiveness that you'll see later in the film.
You know I love you, right?
I love you too, man.
So at the Why Did I Get Married retreat, they always go around and they say why they got married. So they're at this evening sort of ceremony of why did I get married. They go up, they're called up, Gavin and Patricia's. So they go up to, to talk about why they got married.
Well, all know that we love you very much. And we love each other.
Patricia just blurts out, Gavin and I have decided to get a divorce. And did you see his face?
Gavin and I have decided to get a divorce.
Yeah, but the thing is, the audience, everyone, Diane, they're like, she's not sharing anything and stuff, right? And then she does, and then nobody liked it. She finally let something out. Because Angela was like, I'm going to get some drinks in y'all and see what's really going on. Diane's like, you can't bottle it up. And she's like, all right, this is the opportunity. I'm going to do it how I do everything, big and broad, and just in front of everyone. We're getting a divorce.
Gavin is like, Patricia, and he just looks so hurt because clearly he just is caught off guard and whatever.
Patricia.
We love each other very, very much.
And so Patricia goes on to talk about how we've grown apart, and then she's like, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry.
We've just grown apart.
Everything's going to be okay. Watch,
we gonna be the best of friends. Wait, what, girl?
Everything's gonna be okay, watch. You'll see, we'll be fine. We're gonna be best of friends.
It's actually kind of very sad, though, because that she don't believe they're gonna be the best of friends. She's like, watch. The fact that she says watch just
like
is
a 4-year-old.
That was a good bit of dialogue. I like that.
And also what I like is the irony of the fireworks at just the right moment. And she turns around, you did a good job, Tyler Perry. Then all the women come up, and I don't know why they done this, but they watch the fireworks.
They have their waiting to exhale moment.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Count on me. That's what you expect to hear right there at that moment. I just was like, how rude. And so let's just break this down a little bit more. Why does she say, I'm sorry?
Sorry.
Because in the first one, I'm a model. We're a model couple, right? Everyone should model themselves after our relationship. That's the couple that's never going to get divorced. Yeah. That's, I don't even remember that Jackson dude and his you know who I'm talking about? I don't know, Derek Jackson or something. Whatever.
Yeah.
That's who they were. And then that's basically why. I'm sorry that I didn't live up to it, right? When you're a role model, you built yourself into this, and it's all a facade. I'm sorry, right?
Well, what's so funny is because there's also like some foreshadowing. Even I don't know that Tyler Perry knew when he wrote the first movie that he was going to make this happen in the second one, but that how at the dinner table before everything explodes, the comment about Troy's parents being married for a long time.
They were married for 45. Okay, people don't stay married that long no more.
And that which of the couples didn't seem like they would break up or anything.
Pat and Gavin will.
I hope so.
You're not sure?
And
then Patricia's like, well, you just never know what might happen.
you never know what happens, But you got to be willing to do the work.
Patricia was contemplating the breakup even back then, I think. And this is just, a few years later where it's all coming to pass.
Yep.
But now that we know that she's divorcing, then certain things about what happened at the beginning of this movie make a heck of a lot of sense. They've obviously been arguing, which is why when she does agree with him in front of other people, he's like, my wife agrees,
Yeah. And why she didn't want to talk about having a kid too.
Yeah. Why she knew that wasn't going to happen, because let's talk about that. She had already decided. So does this mean there won't be couple retreats in the future? Like, there's no more couple retreats?
No, she's going to bring the rock.
Shut up. We're not even there yet. But like at this point, okay, let's just say, not to spoil the rest of the film.
Yeah, I've seen the movie.
But at this point, like if they're living their lives separate, like, is there still going to be a couples retreat? Are the rest of them?
It has to be. Like Sheila then broke up with her husband, got a divorce, and you still did it. So you
Mike
break
is
up
there
with
as a single person. So I guess once you get your ticket, you just keep coming.
Yeah, like don't just be because I done broke up. We don't do the couple retreat. No, do unto others.
So, but like this was just very shocking to everyone. Nobody was expecting them to, be announcing a divorce. And I mean, hell, Gavin is shocked too. And I legitimately feel sorry, even though Gavin was messy about telling the business earlier. I do feel sorry for Gavin because in a lot of ways, I just think the way he got treated was unfair. But I'm not willing to say that the things we've seen Patricia do are even under her control and like that she's doing them purposely. I think a lot of this is just the result of the grief
of being a Cancer. The sign. I don't know. I just made something up, y'all.
It's because she's a Sagittarius, no, but seriously, I think it's the grief. It is the grief over the loss of this child that just has her twisted and not even. So some of it, I just think I'm not going to sit up and just blame her. I think she's just trying to keep her head above water. And I think Gavin is too. And this is why it's so sad.
She can afford help, but that's another story.
Now that's true. She didn't seek help. She needed some help and didn't seek it.
Yeah.
So they gonna get a divorce.
Gavin was telling me how beautiful it was in the Bahamas. I think I should make it down there sometime.
So in the next scene, we see that they are in the attorney's office. And guess who her attorney is? None other than one of her closest best friends. Diane is the attorney for Pat. And Phil is the attorney for Gavin. Phil is the guy that Diane is having an emotional affair with. And we detail and discuss that at great length in the video that we just did about the two of them. So if you didn't catch that, be sure to check out that video. But anyway, in this scene, they're supposed to be, working out the details of their divorce settlement or whatever. And the first thing that Phil says is like, hey, I think it's great how civil you two are being about this.
We think it's great how civil you two are being about this.
Well, we told you we would be.
And of course, Pat is all like, well, Gavin and I love each other very much. And
Gavin and I love each other very much. Right, sweetie?
And, we just, it just didn't work out, but we love each other.
We just think it's better that we're apart.
She's just being her same self that she's always been. But when you look at Gavin, when she's saying this and how he's looking at her across the table, he looked like he want to choke her. He definitely doesn't look like he loves her very much. And it's just kind of like, girl, are you reading the room at this point?
Yeah.
But then we find out, because we knew they had some money, but we just didn't know how much money they had.
Okay, well, we took your direction and divided everything down the middle.
Okay.
But we find out that they're going to be splitting $970,000, with all the assets and that they have between their retirement funds and their property and all of this and that, right? Almost $1 million is what they're going to split.
Yeah.
You two will be splitting $970,000.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then Gavin whispers to his lawyer.
He had to tell his lawyer, hey, what about the other accounts? Because Phil isn't that competent, or he don't want to bring it up because he's smashing Diane.
Yeah.
Did you disclose that to your client?
Yes. I'm having an emotional affair with the other attorney. Is that okay with you? No. But yeah, so he doesn't say that.
Gavin was telling me that there was another account that's not listed here.
It comes out, Gavin's like, hey, there's this other account with $800,000 in it.
It has about $800,000 in it.
well, dang, that's almost what you guys are splitting. So like, it's almost, you have double the amount of assets.
Exactly. And she's like, why would I? Gavin says it's ours. And then she's like,
well, that's her book money. So this is apparently the proceeds from the book that she's written.
Yeah, that's the money from my book.
Probably the first book, maybe even this new book.
Maybe.
I don't know. Who knows?
But before.
That's not included?
No, we're not offering that.
As soon as the conversation starts, she's like, we decided this. We. And then she's like, we?
It's ours.
Ours?
Ain't no we. I made that money. That's my money. That's my book money.
And that's basically, the Drake line that's been repeated in different ways and paraphrased. Bitch, you wasn't with me shooting in the gym. That's basically to say, and he mentioned Kobe Bryant, but we're going to just say in general, athlete makes a lot of money and then the woman wants half or something, I don't know. And then they're like, you wasn't in the gym shooting jumpers with them, so you don't get nothing.
Gavin, that's the money I made from my book sales. Why would I include that in the settlement?
Yeah, that's a tough one because, in a lot of cases it's these athlete men, but we also see it with women too. Like you look at like Britney Spears and other women who have had and just been taken to the bank.
Yeah,
for the money,
but,
that they had that man had nothing to do with.
And I didn't use not one of your ideas.
Oh yes, you have. You always do. I've always been your case study.
But in this case, Gavin says he had something to do with the book.
But even if he didn't, it doesn't matter because it's really about, what y'all have together. Does it all count? If you just say we split everything down the middle, then, my book, then you go into back and then you be like, wait a minute. So let's say for $500,000 is from my architecture firm.
Mm-hmm.
So you weren't in there drawing up drafts, right? At what point does it stop? Just because it's a book now, then but that's my book money.
So I think that we got to go back to the conversation we had earlier about, splitting and how money is shared and whatever, because that probably would inform what would be quote unquote fair in this situation. Maybe. Because if you go into the marriage and you say, hey, what I make is mine, what you make is yours, and we split bills down the middle or whatever, if that is the agreement, in that case, she would be right. But
it's not.
But I didn't get the impression that
because
they
say we're going to split everything down the middle, 401ks and all this. That's already taken into account what you've done on your own.
That's true. Now that is a really good point.
So
because that says no matter who made more money, that you're splitting it down the middle. Exactly.
Yeah. So
yeah,
you can't just all of a sudden like, now I got some money on the side because I just decided this is my book. Why didn't I would have been like, hey, where's the book money going?
So to be clear,
did we get paid for the book?
To me, the rightness or the wrongness of her not wanting to share that $800,000 is not in just general principle, but it's in the fact of what did it appear was their agreement, right?
Yeah,
not
exactly.
That he's entitled to it because of X, Y, and Z. It's what was the philosophy with which you approach the marriage. And of course, when people break up, suddenly, it's we before you break up, and then after you break up, it becomes I, and well, no, you didn't do this, and and you see it a million times in a million ways with people who fight in divorce court over these things.
Yeah. But see, what's done here is, you brought up Britney Spears and stuff, but usually it's talked about the man having to give a woman something.
Yeah,
so
it usually is.
Tyler Perry is just like, let's flip this too, just like he flipped the relationship with Terry and Diane. Right? Now let's flip this and she has the money. How would you feel about it, women? Or how would you feel about it, men?
Well,
right?
even think about like back in the day, right? Eddie Murphy's stand-up, where he was talking about half, I was a kid when I saw that and, like understood that dynamic of, marriage and, well, I didn't understand it necessarily, but, understood that this could be a problem when people break up, they want that half,
Yeah.
And in some case, in a lot of cases, I definitely don't think it's fair.
Exactly. But like when you like, hey, even up to this point, yeah, we're deciding to split everything in half. And then, what about this account? Oh, not that account. That's supposed to be hidden. You're not supposed to even know about that.
But he clearly knew about that account, though. I would think when things were good, I don't know. But I was thinking that he knew about the account. Like that it was open in the sense that he knew that this account existed, not that he knew she was hiding it. But maybe she was hiding it. Go to the comments and let us know. Was Patricia hiding this money? You know, and
What
in
did
this,
Phil say though? It come to my attention, or he told me about this.
but I mean,
one?
he only whispered just a second. Like you would think he'd have to, but you know, it's a movie. But I'm
no, but
thinking-
I'm saying like even if it didn't happen in that moment, is it that Gavin made him aware of this at some point? Right?
Yeah, I think Gavin
there
made
is
him
this
aware.
other account
I think Gavin
because he knew how much was in there.
I feel like Gavin knew about the account and how much, but it is also a possibility that Gavin didn't know and that whoever was doing the digging found
Yeah.
that there was this other account and it had X amount of dollars in it. Maybe that's why Gavin is also more pissed
Yeah.
off in this moment.
But is it greed? Because she say this ain't about the money. This is about greed. But greed kind of seems about the money. But
This ain't about the money. This is about greed. Your greed.
is it greed to say that, hey, we're gonna split everything in half and I want my half? They like to use that all the time.
Well, so I think that she just was trying to accuse him of something where she felt entitled. Okay, so let me rewind to what else he said. He's like, you know, because she's all like, where is this coming from? And, you know, he admits also in this scene that she announced that they were getting divorced and that he didn't know.
When you announced that we were getting divorced in front of all our friends, you never ran that by me.
So like it appeared like that was what was going on in the previous scene, but we have it confirmed here. He says that he has been starving in this relationship
I should be greedy because I've been starving in this relationship.
and that she kept up a farce of a marriage for 14 years and that he had been waiting for her to learn how to love him.
Instead, I've been waiting for you to learn how to love me.
Like I could have been out here living my best life, but I'm sitting up here waiting on you and you tolerate me was what he said.
You know I love you, Gavin.
You tolerate me. You tolerate. That's a difference.
And then he talked about since Noah died, you've been impossible.
And ever since Noah died, you have been impossible.
So the problems didn't even just start when Noah died. That's when it just probably became completely unmanageable, right? And I think part of what I think that the money is a retaliation on Gavin's part. Not that he's not entitled to it, but I think his demand that you give me because he feels disrespected and just done wrong with the whole thing. And I'd have to agree on some level with Gavin that like how she did him and blocked him out and whatever. It just seems like she was always more concerned about her image, even like in the argument in the bedroom. Keep your voice down because I don't want these other people to know that I'm not who I pretend to be.
You tell her to prepare for a fight.
So, so there's that. But like, so there's this question of, was Patricia wrong to not want to share the money? Was Gavin wrong for asking for the money? What do you think?
She was wrong and he was right.
Yeah.
Like hey, we're going to do half and we make money together and that's it, right? But like, because it all comes down to at what point do you start splitting off and saying, oh, this is mine and this is yours?
I just think you just got to split everything and then your next book will be yours, The next book you write can be...
Yeah, or even the royalties that come after the divorce is final.
Yeah.
From this book or from the first 2 books or whatever, from the at least 2 books. That's just it. Like, dang. Why is it so hard? Like, are you going to be hurting if you don't get the $800, the $800,000?
Well,
all
which is
to
why
yourself?
she says to him, you're just trying to hurt me.
You're trying to hurt me. I ain't gonna do this.
You're not gonna do what?
No, I'm not standing for this.
Well, I think that's true too, though. I think he is trying to hurt her because he's hurt. But I also think that he is entitled to that half of that.
But why would that hurt? It's
800,000.
not going to hurt you.
Because he knows she's the money, the accomplishments. Not that we get this impression that she's like I'm all about my money in my bag. But it means something to her, right? This is part of her accomplishment.
Okay, but you've earned
career.
it. But just having it, it's totally different to me. Like, you lose nothing like, I think it's greed to be like, okay, I got $1.2 million or whatever, right? Or I got 900,000, and we're not gonna bring up taxes and all that. But I got 900,000, and I don't want to give up I don't want to give up a few 100,000, right? Is that not greed? Because I just want to have it to myself. Like, what are you losing?
I think it's greed too. I definitely think it's greed. The other thing I find that is taken off the table with their situation is that whether either one of them gets that half or all of the 800,000 is not going to make a difference as far as, like, they're not missing meals over this. They're not going to not have a place to live over this, which is very different in situations where a lot of other people divorce, like where, maybe one person has way more money and assets than the other person.
Does that include selling the house?
I don't know.
Specifically brought that up. So maybe it's even more on top of that, right? Because also you got to talk about that, because the other person will still be having tasked with, going
finding
into another
to
purchase.
Yeah. So, I just think in how it came to the head though in this scene was interesting because, at the beginning it's all nice and cordial. Although Gavin was straight up, he was never smiling, happy or anything in this scene.
She was like, we love each other. We decided this. We're good friends.
We.
We? She said,
she said, that ain't we money. That's my money.
And that's where we are. They're divorced, and now they're having.
But then but he starts talking about her, right? And then she gets up to leave, and then he's like, she like, I ain't finna listen to this, and then he goes and blocks the door.
I'm not doing this.
No, you're gonna sit here and listen to this.
Not today. I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are, Patricia.
Now, what do you think about that? Because I feel like he's like, you gonna listen to this today, and I'm just like, whoa, buddy.
You're gonna listen to
Gavin, move. Get out of my way.
This is getting to be a little too. And why didn't Phil stand up
and do what?
Get his client. You blocking the door for this woman to exit the room.
Well,
that's a no. Phil should have been on his feet.
Phil gonna get beat up.
Phil should have. I mean, he didn't have to get beat up. He could have just been like, okay, Gavin, and everybody's upset.
Then he's like,
all calm
you
down.
shut up, Phil.
I'm telling Terry that you're screwing Diane. But
because he has to know. I guess maybe his wife didn't tell him that part. She's tell everything else. But that might be in the next book. And my attorney was smashing my ex-husband's attorney.
But to me, I just think that unfortunately, this is Patricia's life kind of smacking her in the face, because she thought she could continue on be acting like she's been acting
and be controlling,
and then nobody was going to say anything. And Gavin was like, no, I'm gonna fight, and I'm fighting.
Play your little game. Go play hide and seek, Patty.
And like I said, I do think he's fighting out of being vindictive, but at the same time being entitled to what he is fighting for, actually. So that's my feeling on it. But it's heating up.
Listen, I'll talk to you later. You just got in, okay?
So as we expect, it just continues to devolve. They are in this house together after the scene where they've agreed they're going to be basically fighting one another about this money. Gavin is walking around in a wife beater with a whole bottle of liquor in his hand, been getting drunk, and the house is dark and whatever. And he says, I think I should move out. And then she's basically like, yeah,
I think it's best if I move out.
It's a good idea.
Why are they still together?
This is the thing, because this is so freaking dangerous. I don't even know why you just are crazy. You're not in your right mind if you are in the household in a physical same location with somebody while you're going through this. And a lot of people do this, though. A lot of people do this, but y'all didn't have to do it because y'all have money. Somebody could have went and stayed at the motel or whatever. A lot of people are forced into it because they just literally don't have the money and no place else to go, and they wind up being in the same house. But that's not the case for these two crazy birds. But anyway, so
So he's drinking and stuff, and I don't know, like, does this just come out of nowhere? She's like, "You've been drinking," and then basically it's just.
You've been drinking again, haven't you, Gavin?
What do you want me to do?
He just starts abusing her, and
I mean, but they say something. They a few things do happen in this scene. The first thing he says is that my wife doesn't love me.
My wife doesn't love me.
He seems genuinely heartbroken about this, though, because I think he really loves Patricia. He wants to be there for her, and he don't want this marriage to break up. But Patricia just doesn't. She just can't continue forward. But he says, "You know who loves me? Your coworker Denise has been calling, saying, 'Gavin, I love you.'"
Denise, she's been calling me. She's, "Gavin, I love you, Gavin."
You know what you are right now? Pathetic.
And I'm like, wait, what?
Foolishness.
Do you know her coworker I presume at the school where she teaches or whatever, but anyway, that was just like a weird thing. But he's probably like saying, I could have been doing this. I could have been this guy, right? I could have been and had your coworker, but I, am over here trying to love you who doesn't love me. So that was one thing that happened. And then he's like, "Give me the money,"
Settle this, Gavin.
Give me the money.
He just wants her to show him his what he sees as his due respect. Give me what I'm owed in this situation, and then we can move about. And then he goes like, "You need to have a drink or whatever."
Stop drinking, okay?
You know what? You need to have a drink. Okay?
And he starts like he's physically keeping her down.
How about this? You want to join me? Ooh, let's drink together.
Like he does not allow her to leave when she is trying to get away from him.
You say purge, right? No.
No, get off of me!
And I think he even tries to. Was he trying to kiss her or bite her? It was
Bro,
weird.
it was hilarious when he started licking her face.
It was
like,
just.
Why was that? It's just like this. You can't do this to characters in movies, right? Even though let's say it's realistic that you don't see a side of people and then something happens and maybe they act differently, or maybe he was like this the whole time and you just didn't show us. But I guess that just makes the movie good to some people. But it just seems very out of character. He just is acting like this. And then with the whole licking, that's another extreme just out of nowhere. Just
Kinda
acting like Hannibal Lecter.
Or how in Baby Boy, how he licks Baby Boy, how Ving Rhames licks Tyrese's bald head. And
yeah, but he seemed like the person who would do that. Right.
Yeah, that character was built right for that. Yeah. But this is just like Gavin has turned into, Melvin from Baby Boy. And he's doing that. But anyway, so then he goes on and he's like, "I'm gonna purge." Like it's just this whole
I know you tell your readers to purge. Doctor, listen to your patient.
Listen to your patient. Listen to your patient. I'm gonna purge. I'm gonna dump. No.
Yeah, like, he's like, "What happened to you to make you like that? Where you got to be in control?"
Why do you have to be in control? Just tell me something. What happened to you?
You got advice for everybody, but you don't even want to help yourself.
You got advice for everybody, but you don't want to help yourself.
And now this, I do think is like the straight truth she's hearing. She could tell everybody about their life, but she is not helping herself, starting with being in this, situation.
Yeah. I don't know why it just went off the rails like that.
And then the other thing was the baby pictures, right? So their son who has died, he tries to take the pictures and, he's like, "I'm taking these pictures. You don't want them. You don't want to look at them."
Okay.
Gavin, you're not taking all the
pictures.
You're not taking those pictures.
What do you care about?
And if you remember back to the first movie, she was really kind of unable to look at her son's pictures for long.
Steak and chicken.
Patricia, no. Look at the picture.
No, you know what? Stop it. Stop it.
Understandably, she lost this baby. And now, he's like, she's like, "Those are our only pictures." Then he set the pictures on fire.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah,
crazy.
He just went totally crazy.
Not the baby's pictures. Those are the only ones we have. Gavin, no.
Huh? You like?
And then he's like, I love you, as he's dousing her with alcohol like he's blessing her, but he's saying, I love you, but he's putting this alcohol.
I love you. Love you.
I seriously thought he was going to like strike up a match and set her on fire.
They probably was just like, improv, just act crazy, y'all, and just go.
And a few people have brought this up in the comments of the, of the video, the previous videos about why did I get married too. But apparently this was like filming during the same time as right after Michael Jackson had passed away. And of course, this is Janet's brother. And so a lot of the emotion that is seen in this movie, people feel that it would, she pulled from the pain of the loss of her brother in order to deliver the performance she gave in this film.
I guess. But isn't that just what all actors do, though? Not all, but a good bit of it is pull from any time.
Pull from the pain,
even if it's recent or the past. I can make myself cry if I make up something in my mind, right? So, I won't say I'll make myself cry, but I could.
You could become emotional based on
yes. So, I guess if that makes you feel better about the movie, but I think a lot of them, they talk about one scene though that was supposedly
that's coming up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
And apparently, so that we get the whole thing out, like Tyler Perry basically was like, do you want to shut down filming? Or do you want to still film? And she agreed that she would still film regardless. And so that's what happened.
Oh.
Allegedly, because I don't remember if Tyler Perry actually said that, but that's what I understand.
Urban
to be
legend
the situation.
says.
Yeah. So after all this, he finally lets her up though, and you would think that she would be getting the heck out of the house after this.
Yeah.
But she's heading toward the stairs to go upstairs.
You're psychotic!
It's like, are you
are
you going to get your keys?
She's
girl?
going to get that piece.
Where is your like life preservation skills?
Mm-hmm. How does this make the audience feel about Gavin though? Right? Because he's a good person, and then now this is what he's doing. You know what I'm saying?
That's a really good question. I think like in this case, I'm conflicted, and maybe that's the whole point, right? I still feel sorry for Gavin because I think what we see is him drinking, him trying to deal with this. He's so incensed. She's so outwardly unemotional about it, right?
Yeah.
And it's just it's hard. But like we got to come back to the thing that really facilitated the breakdown. Like they lost their baby, their child, through something that was, you could say, is her fault. She didn't,
then in situations like
and they
this,
had the accident on a rainy night.
Yeah, this is your only attachment to that child. If you want to go all the way psychological with it, right? So your child is going, this is the other piece of DNA of that person. So this is the only one who's there because there's no other kid in that situation, and that's what's there. But this scene made me think of, Baby Boy yet again with, Yvette and Jody, and we talked about how Jody abused Yvette in that scene, and it was like, but she hit him too, right? And I think of abuse differently because it's about power, right? Who has the power to do what, and her smacking him in the face is definitely not the same as what he's able to do to her.
Yeah. Even in this case, Gavin is able to overpower her physically where she cannot leave. She said, stop, it is hurting. Like, get off of me. And he forced her to listen to his drunken ravings in that moment.
And if she had hit him over the head with a bottle and he responded like this, I would still view it the same way.
Yeah. So, but that's who he has become under the duress of this situation and the drinking. And maybe he had an alcohol problem because, when people are like, have you been drinking again? Like that indicates that you have this
that's exactly what I thought. Like, oh, this is who he's been.
But maybe it's who he became after they lost the baby, right?
Maybe, but it's still, he's been this for some time that we had no clue of, though.
Yeah. Yeah. We never heard even before this. But maybe after the baby, well, I don't know. Let me just rewind. Did he go when he said you came drunk to my house, and that's when he said, how could she be so stupid? Was
clever.
he drunk? Was he drunk then?
You came crying at my house, asking how could she be so stupid and not strap your son in his car seat?
Because I feel like maybe he said drunk. We'll pull the clip and and we'll verify that. But I think that maybe he was drunk that night.
Yeah. People get drunk though too, so
he was drinking.
But this is
wasn't
a different
he drinking
level.
a beer on the thing? I mean,
you could be drunk and be like, I can't believe she was so stupid. But this is drunk and he's like, purge. You tell your haters to purge and start licking on her face and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. He's gone just totally bonkers in this scene. But you know what? I just have to conclude that like they're both just emotionally traumatized. And not in neither of them is in the space to be making any major decisions. They can't even figure out how to create a safe situation for either of them.
If your friend is your attorney, is it proper for them to, help you through these decisions?
First of all, if I saw him stand in front of the door like that and I'm the attorney, I say to my friend, I say to my client, period, but definitely to my friend, I'm like, girl, listen, this could get ugly. I've seen it get ugly and you need to find someplace else to stay. Or, and I know that somebody, is going to be like, but if you move out of the house, you could lose the house and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Bottom line is these are rich people and, your life is more important than
you
any
have
of
two
that.
attorneys who can set it up in a way that, nobody has
like
claimed ownership
Yeah.
of the home. Like, that's still under dispute.
So like to me, that would have been on my radar that this is not good. This can explode, because he was talking crazy to Diane, and then Diane just kind of had an attitude like when she left, like, oh, like but he was out of pocket for making it physical, even though you understand why he's so incensed, why he's so enraged about everything. It doesn't make it right for him to be that way. Doesn't make it right for him to hold her against her will. You just can't do that to people.
Was a happy house. Patricia! The car is out and there. The two of us.
So we see Patricia's further isolation when the other three women come over because they haven't heard from her and they're trying to check on her. And Patricia is not answering the door. She doesn't want to talk to anybody.
Loneliness surrounds it.
She is in there smoking a cigarette.
The house is very clean, which is not typical in movies like this. And she's smoking a cigarette out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm like, Patricia was smoking. Okay.
It's just, I think Tyler Perry liked that image of, the woman is distressed and hurt and stuff, and she's smoking a cigarette. But this isn't the character. Like, do people just start smoking out of nowhere? And let me get a cigarette and smoke. Like, it don't make sense. It doesn't.
Well, that's what she's doing. So, she in here,
she's
and
stressing
then, like,
so much. She's
and,
like, let me just buy. I hear people say they smoke cigarettes when they're stressed.
And her hair is like all wet and she's like sweaty looking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Patricia is down bad.
And she won't answer the door because, and the friends know she wasn't going to open that door.
Oh, so would a real friend get up in there? Would a real friend call the police?
And
get a wellness check?
I don't know about that. Calling the police might cause further issues.
Yeah. That's the sad complication.
Yeah,
that is the sad complication. But I think at a minimum, it would just be like, what you got to do for a situation like that is you just go, I'm not leaving. You better open this door and get to this door.
Maybe you call Gavin.
Gavin ain't have a key, as we gonna say.
But I'm just saying, maybe I won't have to break down and call the woman because maybe before he starts stanking up in there, let me go see what's going on.
Yeah. That's basically how it'd have to be.
You ready to move?
Yeah.
So Gavin has decided he needs to get a few things from the house because clearly he's not staying there anymore. And so the guys arrived to help him move a few things. And he has to throw a potted plant through the door in order to gain entry.
Malik Yoba plays a really good sad guy sitting there on the porch or whatever. But his friends seem a little too cheery for what's going on. They're like, come on, man, let's go ahead and move the things. And he busts in a window. If he does that, I'm not going in there, bro. I'm supposed to just go through the busted glass on the door and no. As a black man? Who?
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah. So when he gets inside, he's like, I saw her leave. She ain't here right now. And hurry up and help me get my stuff so that I could get out of here and all of that.
And all the stuff that Terry says doesn't make sense because first he's like, stop this, please. All he's trying to do is get his stuff and move out, right?
Yeah.
But he is talking about don't get a divorce. And then he goes into, you got to work with all this stuff that
14 years
doesn't
together,
make sense.
something to salvage.
Yeah.
And then, Gavin is like, you can only fight with a person when they're willing to get in the ring with you.
She doesn't love me anymore. That's what she said. She said she doesn't want to be with me.
She doesn't love me anymore. And actually, Gavin is the one on the right page, even though he's deeply in grief over this. He's the one who's right about Terry is the one that's delusional. The woman has said, I do not want to be with you anymore. I'm leaving and you got to let her go. And so that is actually what Gavin seems to be attempting to do, right?
Right. But Terry, after they busted through the door, broke in, says, she don't know about this? You just saw him bust through the door and said I waited for her to leave.
Ridiculous.
Bruh.
So Pat, of course, shows up like some creepy, crazy person in a thriller film. Nobody hears her walk up. She just is there.
Or drive up.
Yeah. So she just is there and she's just like, this is how you gonna do, that kind of thing.
Is this a game you want to play with me?
And then she does the wait and exhale 14 years.
Yeah.
14 years!
Patricia, hold on a second.
Patricia! You was somebody!
Yeah, I was your white woman for 11 years. Couldn't have started that damn company without me.
They get in a verbal disagreement and she's like, I want you to be the man and be a man and leave this marriage with what you came to this marriage with.
I want you to be a man, all right? Leave this marriage with what you came in with.
And I just have questions, right? Because I had kind of felt like they were equally yoked in all ways. They had about equal money when they got out. They each worked their careers and made money. You know what I'm saying? So it's weird. Like there's so much we don't know about the situation that we can't just simply assume because they're both successful professionals. And so, Pat shows that she's going crazy. But he's just like, I'm going to show you how much of a man I am. I done been to the bank and I got it all now.
Second of all, you go down to the bank and see what this man did. I got it all now.
So I'm assuming he took everything out the bank.
That's just crazy. While it's all in dispute and all this, I don't know about that, but.
Or maybe he just took the $800,000.
Even still, you shouldn't be able to take any of it. But he went to the bank, took the stuff out.
He sure did.
Oh, well, and now.
That's when she goes berserk.
He's like, they won't put it in escrow. I escrowed the funds. That's basically what happened.
He wanted to make sure his stuff was preserved.
Yeah, because if he can take it out, then so can she. So maybe that's reasonable. I don't know.
I don't know, but you shouldn't take the whole thing because you're taking her part. If you feel you're entitled to half, then you should have taken half.
But maybe next week,
he said, I took it all.
Maybe next week, I'm going to ask for more now.
Who knows? But, so Gavin was wrong for that. Gavin was wrong for that. She starts tearing up her house. So then she finds out he's got the money. She calls him, everything but a child of God.
Greedy, selfish, son of a bitch. Who gave you the money for this architect firm?
And finally is this like, get out of the house. But while she's ranting and raving, she's like, who gave you the money for this house? Who gave you the money for the firm? So she's claiming that she funded the things he has. Now,
you talking about leave this marriage with what you came in with.
But like,
what did you go into the marriage with?
Y'all
were in college together and stuff. Maybe you a trust fund baby too.
Maybe.
But like, it don't make sense. But it makes sense if you just do it in isolation and be like, look, she had money and he didn't, and now he wants half of whatever. But that ain't the way it was in the beginning. Now it's like, I don't know. It just don't make sense to me.
Well, okay, so like let's just take this step by step. Okay, if they were in college and she was a trust fund baby, let's say, or somebody, you know, just who was more well off.
Yeah.
And he wasn't, then, because think about it, he's an architect. So he would have gone through and, you know, like probably a 5-year architecture program with undergrad. I don't know that he went to grad school. So he probably wouldn't have had the same amount of debt as she would have had to either, you know, to go to medical school.
So maybe she was in medical school and he was working while she was like, I don't,
So
we need to know
maybe
more.
she had some, or maybe it just went, maybe an architect, you know, is not making that much straight out of school.
But
and,
does it matter
you
if
know,
you're making that much if you're supporting them while she's in school?
Well, it doesn't, but somebody who's counting who's done what is not thinking about that they got supported through school, right? She's just like, who gave you the money for the firm? Who gave you the money for this house? You know? So,
but it's make it seem like he done absolutely nothing when he is working.
well, and that's maybe how she sees it, right? Because because whatever it is, she seems to have had somehow more money than him.
Yeah, I guess.
You know, and so she funded his firm. She, you know, gave probably the down payment on the house or whatever. Or if the house is owned outright, then, you know, she paid for it.
Paid all of it. Like, it don't make sense.
You know, but this is why I feel like you just have to look at whatever the arrangement was. If while you were together, the arrangement was fine that you did all of this, then it shouldn't change as you're closing it out.
But should the movie communicate some truth, right? Or should it, or like different perspectives, as with like Eve's Bayou?
Mm-hmm.
Like what the character tells me has to inform me something. Is this just her thoughts, or is this what you're telling us is truth?
I think that what she's saying is factual, but it doesn't account for what
It doesn't make
he
sense
did.
if it's factual.
But it doesn't account for what he
She paid
did.
for the house and she paid for. Did he pay nothing? Right, is what I'm saying. I don't have the information. It can't be factual unless he just kept all the money and didn't pay for anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It
It's just doesn't, you know, maybe she talks about the big purchases, but it doesn't, you know, maybe you're not thinking about that you had zero income for like 7-8 years.
Or he paid on the mortgage too. Like,
and paid the mortgage or, well, yeah. All those things. Or, you know, paid the mortgage on the building that he bought for his firm or, you know, all that stuff, right? So I helped you get into, you know, it's kind of like I helped you with the money for the down payment for your car, but you paid all the payments, you know, or I helped you with whatever, but you kept it going. So it's not like you didn't contribute zero to this. It's not like you contributed nothing.
That's what is coming across the screen.
But that's how people be feeling too, you know?
Yeah, but I need something from the filmmaker that give me some
Agreed.
idea of what happened. Because the problem is you have 2 movies and everything is perfect and all this, right? You're not showing us the money problems like with Troy or, you know, it's just all of a sudden I paid for everything, or even with Angela and Mike, right? Now it's out of nowhere. I pay for everything and whatever. After talking about how, oh, you just seem jealous.
Right.
It's just, I don't know. It's just, I need something that tells me who did what.
So so they have this, you know, whole fight, and at the end, she just ends with, "Hey, get out. This is my house.
Get out of my house. Get out of my house."
So she has claimed this house is hers. Get out. This is my house. But you know, I gotta go back to like, but when it was us, it was our house.
Yeah, and he was there to get his stuff to move out anyway. I don't know what any of this is about.
But I just think that she has like descended into madness. Maybe because of how he was. Because you know that at the end of the scene where he had like choked her up or whatever and, you know, held her down, she was like, okay. Like she was just pulling herself together.
Okay.
In movies, you know how when you're seeing somebody sort of lose their mind, to me, that was also an indicator, which I should have maybe mentioned at that time, but I'm mentioning it now.
Yeah.
Like where she's trying to talk, she's shaking because of the situation. And now she just has gone crazy because she was going crazy sitting in there by herself anyway. Right. Sitting there smoking that cigarette. You look like you're in your pajamas with a, outside coat on. You've been in the same pajama, so she's just all the outward indicators that she's losing her mind.
It's a mess in here.
Patricia's friends show up at her house. The window is still smashed in, and they walk through. They don't try to open the door. They walk through the glass that has been the opening from the glass being broken. And then one of them tries to turn the light on and said, "Why won't this light come on?"
Why won't this light come on? Open the drapes.
No.
I want to know why the light won't come on.
The automatic draft couldn't come out because Gavin took all the money out the bank.
But I'm thinking it's the same
sorry.
day.
It is the same day. I don't know, like maybe she busted the lamp, that is connected to the light switch.
Yeah.
When she was going through her lashing out. But at any rate, she's sitting there in them same pajamas and she tells them to leave again. She's just like,
I'm okay.
I'm okay. Just go.
I'm okay. Can you please leave?
Then they're like, no, just still pushing, like any good friend would. And then she's just like, I have no more fight left in me.
I have no more fight left in me. Please.
You wasn't even fighting.
Well, she had tuckered herself out, tearing all that stuff
I
up
guess
in
that's
the living
fighting.
room.
But why is that lying there? There was no fighting. You just
but-
ignored everything.
Well, but look.
Just fight to ignore everything.
What is she fighting, though? Is she fighting Gavin? Or is she fighting the demons of feeling like she killed her child and not being able to get past that? And I want to revisit something you said earlier about that Gavin is like the only thing left of her child, right, that she has. And she just maybe can't face it and she wants to get rid of him in her life because he is a reminder of the child that they lost.
But why would she want the pictures?
Because, if she ever decides to go there, right?
Yeah.
If you want to open that box up, you can.
But it's easier to just let him take the pictures.
But then you can't have them when you want them.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
you don't have access to them when you might want to have access to them.
Yeah.
So that, is it. So I think that this is where it is. So the fight in her, she's been fighting this whole time, fighting to keep her head above water, probably fighting to not go jump off a cliff because the emotional distress and despair that, a parent would feel after something like that happens, after they lose their children. And we talked about this in previous videos, but like marriages where people lose their children, many of them do not survive. Many of them don't survive anyway, but, especially when they lose their children. And this is one of those cases where they didn't really get through the loss together. They individually are treading water, trying not to drown. And I think that that's not not saying that something was wrong with that approach to it. I think they're surviving any way that they know how, but just from the outside looking in, that's the hard part. And I think Gavin was willing to be like, let's tread together, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. And I think it was probably a real dagger knowing that Gavin blamed her because she had blamed herself. And so that was probably the end of it,
Yeah.
after that.
Do you want your attorney sitting there crying with you?
I mean, no, but that's her friend. It's not really her attorney. She's just she's the friend that it happens to be the attorney, not the attorney that is like, I'm gonna be here for you.
I guess. Well,
So they all sit down and they agree, right, that they're gonna just be there with her. And I kind of liked it.
Can we make a deal with you? What if we just sit here?
I liked it. I liked the way that they approached this scene because I think in times of distress like this, there's nothing anybody could say. Nobody could be like, baby, it's going to be okay. This too shall pass. Nothing is going to suffice. And so the support that they could give is just to like literally be there and shut the hell up.
Yeah.
You know. That's what they did. And they, you know, were all emotional with her in spite of all the, you know, turmoil they each had with their own lives. You know, what's her name had just been in a fight. Sheila had just been basically in a fight between Troy and Mike, where, you know, Mike was beating up Troy because Sheila was over at his house taking him to chemotherapy. And he didn't know. So everybody's life is jacked up at this point. But they still found time for their friend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about when what happened to Sheila happened?
What you mean?
They wasn't showing up to check on Sheila.
Well, that we talked about that with the first movie. In the first movie, how Sheila was sitting there rocking with just her socks on after she had knocked Mike over the head with that bottle.
Yeah. The next day, Sheriff Troy was the only one who went to check on her.
Her friends just let her leave in the middle of the night.
Right. So you mentioned, all of them have this stuff going on. In the first one, I think what you said was they had their other stuff going on, which is probably a reason why. But
maybe this shows growth.
Yeah, maybe her book helped them. But they had all this going on. And probably worse than the first one. I don't know. But either way, they didn't go check on Sheila, but they made sure to go check on her, on Patricia.
Yeah, they wasn't really Sheila's real friend. The only one that was Angela. And
Angela ain't go to that hotel room.
Yeah, where was
Think
Angela?
about it. So if I'm somewhere with my friends, we go on vacation, something happened, and one of them go off and be like, all right, it's time to leave. Where is this person? I'm not leaving yet.
Yeah. Sheila could have went jump off a cliff.
Yeah, we're not at home. This person is, in essence, missing. But they just like, whatever, packing up and leaving.
That's how people will do you, though. You better check on who your friends are.
Bro, let's not get into
Talk about going out on vacation and something, you know.
Cut your friends off.
You know.
They went to check on her and had this nice moment with nice music and stuff. I don't like the lighting, but
I don't like the sad music.
What?
I know it adds to it, but
okay, is Janet Jackson, did she play this scene well? Did she act it well?
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, but see, with the music,
it enhances it. I will admit the music enhances it.
Because otherwise you'd just be like, why is she making them faces like, well, I am.
The hard part is that there are things in these Tyler Perry films that are just over the top. And so then like I'm inappropriate as a viewer when I'm watching these movies sometimes, because like certain things will make you want to laugh when clearly you're not supposed to laugh at this point. But some things are so ridiculous that, you know, that's kind of how you understand what I'm saying? Like it just
like when he started licking on her face and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm
so
like,
you laugh. That was not supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
That was not supposed to be funny at all.
Part of it is editing too. Like, come on,
True.
You could have edited that differently, maybe.
And when they have an affair, emotionally, it's way worse than sex.
The guys are having drinks and talking about their problems. And Cowboy Troy, Sheriff Troy, is not there. Gavin is telling Terry, you don't want to go through what I go through, because Terry is like, yeah, it's different when Diane is emotionally cheating because she's a woman, you know, and men are different, lead to $200, blah, 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 blah. He's just like, you don't want to go through a divorce.
Trust me, you don't want to go through a divorce.
But this is also one of those instances where you're only talking about your situation.
Right. And Gavin is just like, trust me, you don't want to go through. But see, I think Gavin is like, you don't want to go through because Gavin doesn't want this divorce. Like, that's the piece you have to keep in mind. Whereas Terry was the one who is contemplating divorce and what he should do about his wife's emotional cheating. Gavin, even in spite of the problems he's had with Patricia, does not want to leave the marriage. He's accepting the hand he is dealt, right? The divorce. Yeah. He doesn't want it. And that's another reason why he would say, you trust me, you don't want to go through it.
Exactly. And why wouldn't Terry know this? Because Terry earlier was talking about, where he heard that Gavin said, well, she said she wants to leave, right? So if if she's emotionally out of it, then that's basically the same as what you're saying your wife is Diane is done.
Which is completely different, which is why Terry is just wrong in his assessment. Not wrong to feel bad that his wife has had this emotional affair, but he's wrong in how he's reading it because his wife hasn't told him she's ready to, it's not hopeless. Diane is willing to still stay there and be with Terry. Pat is not. Yeah,
you've seen her stand up there in front of all those people when she never done anything like this and just we getting a divorce, y'all.
We're so sorry. We're getting a divorce, but we're going to be fine. We'll be the bestest friends.
And
watch and see.
You should be like, hey, by the way, what's her attorney's name? Phil. Oh, that's Phil. He's so observant and everything.
He still don't know that's Phil. Right now, Gavin still don't know his attorney is the dude that they're discussing.
He's helping your friend. Bruh, all right.
Hey, Ross. Good to see you. Oh, hey, Patricia. Is Gavin here?
Yeah, he's at his office.
The most problematic scene in the film happens. So Patricia just shows up at Gavin's firm, right? And just makes a big scene. And she's like, hey, everyone, gather around. Gavin sees her.
It's Gavin's birthday.
Yeah.
Patricia, what are you doing?
Can I get everyone's attention, please? Can you gather around?
Patricia, what are you doing?
And then they sing happy birthday and stuff.
Hey, Patricia.
Gavin, happy birthday.
She's like, everyone count to 3. And then when they count to 3. A man, I guess, jumps out of the cake and starts dancing.
If you want to be a bitch, then there's your man, Gavin.
And the music is playing. It's Raining Men. It's a 2010 gay joke, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't work today. Let's say this actually happened in the office place. Depending where you are, it'll be great entertainment because, quote, drag shows are in vogue, right? So it could be interpreted as a drag show. But this whole thing in 2010 and how they try to show everyone looking and stuff is just no.
Unacceptable according to today's standards.
You think this is funny?
It's supposed to be so embarrassing, even though it still might be today. In the movie world, it isn't wrong if the character is offended by something they shouldn't be offended by. Right? So it may just be in character, but it's still, to me, one of those jokes that just ain't do.
Well, and she's like, if you want to be a bee, then there's your man. What you gonna do? And then he's upset with her, but she's getting amped up, what you gonna do? What you gonna do?
You leave here right now.
Don't put your finger in my
Patricia.
face. What you gonna do?
Get your hand out my face. She's, I don't know, she's regained her strength in this
she's
moment.
Fighting now.
Yeah, she's got more fight left in her because she didn't came to fight and show out at this man's job, which was completely ridiculous and uncalled for.
Sick of your selfish ass, Gavin. I'm tired of this.
And so Gavin is just why are you?
He starts to storm out, and
Yeah.
she is following behind him, antagonizing him.
Run like a little girl.
Yeah, you
Run
really
like
have
the little
issues,
bitch
Patricia.
you are.
She continues to follow Gavin outside. He's just trying to get away from her. He's going to get in his car and try to drive away. And she's steadily calling him a little girl and a bee and, run away. And, she's antagonizing him. And she's like, you're not going to take my money. How dare you try to take all of my money?
You gonna come by my job and
How dare you try to take all my money?
So he took, I think, the $800,000 and whatever they had in the bank. He took it all.
Yeah.
I've got nothing to say
You try to take all my money. Go ahead, look at you run.
Then he drives off real fast, and then he gets hit by a moving truck.
You are not gonna touch a dime of what I have, Gavin.
And
right at the moment where she's like, you won't take a dime of my money.
and she act all distraught. But why is there an arm that sticks out of the passenger side window when it gets hit?
Let me
Both.
see.
It ain't funny, but yeah, that was a terrible accident if it pushed him to the passenger side and then his arm came sticking out.
But why would it push him to, I guess if the car flipped around, but like, why would it push him to the passenger side?
Because he didn't have his seatbelt on, right? And then the car keeps moving in that direction.
Yeah, but
because it hits the passenger side.
It hits the passenger side.
So your body stops moving, but the car keeps going.
Yeah, but because he got hit from like, okay, you're driving, you get hit on the passenger side from the right, then the car is going to
keep going in that direction.
In the direction it was going, and it'll also move in the direction that the other vehicle was going because it was much bigger.
Yes, the car will. But if I hit the door and go to the other side, right, that don't mean I keep going in that direction.
I guess if you bounced around.
If you were, yeah. But the car keeps going in one direction. But yeah, his arm, I think it looked like an arm or something was sticking out.
But yeah, Gavin is
having problems.
Now, there are people who in the comments of the previous videos related to this movie have said that this was Gavin attempting and attempting to end it all.
So
I disagree.
Yeah, because you would have to know and time it perfectly. And that's what I don't like about movies, right? So let's say somebody is chasing Gavin or looking for Gavin. Then all the time, out of nowhere, they come across the intersection and hit the person because they knew that at the exact time, at this exact speed, I would hit them. So he would have to know that at this exact time, this exact speed, that this truck is going to run into me so that I could end it, when all of this was spontaneous because he was just at work in his office when this woman showed up. So it doesn't make sense.
Gavin was just trying to get away from her.
Come on, face me, face me.
And in his
haste, just didn't pay attention.
He just didn't look both ways before he crossed the street.
Bro.
Why are you laughing?
Just the way you say it.
But at the end of the day, too, see, like the way this was filmed, to me, it made it comedic, and it wasn't supposed to be, because it's like you just want, how in those scary movies or these other comedy movies where somebody gets hit and they're like, rah, rah, just out of nowhere.
What happened.
And it was not supposed to be funny.
And part of it is because of what just happened, right? Because she went into there acting a fool.
Dare you try to take all my money? How dare you?
So then when something happens to him, it's transferred and like, oh, she's distraught and that's what she gets. So that's funny, right? It's like, it's just something, I don't know the answer to making it not like that, but that's just how it sometimes happens.
How it came across.
But see, the thing is, they lost a child in a car accident, right? So now she goes to his job and causes this car accident where he's
Go to the comments. Did Patricia cause this to happen to Gavin? That's what I want to know from you all. Personally, I don't think that she directly caused it the way she maybe, I don't know. I guess maybe it's the same level of responsibility. Well, no, I can't
she
say
contributed to it.
Yeah, she
right?
contributed.
If you didn't show up at his job, this don't happen because he's just still in the office right now looking at boring papers.
But then somebody else will be like, but I didn't make him get in the car and speed out.
Okay, you did.
Actually,
you contribute.
You facilitated it though.
Yeah.
Because you followed and chased him.
At least you look like a little girl.
You need to handle that.
If someone is chasing you and then something happens because you're being chased, like, you contributed to that happening to that person.
But if you feel it's not, then, it just allows people, it's just saying that anybody can do anything to get you to do something and then claim no fault.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
What did I do? I didn't mean it. What did I do?
They're in the hospital, and then we have Patricia, who is all distraught, hitting herself on the head and stuff, saying it's my fault. How could I be so stupid? All that. And Diane is like, it's okay. And then they're all like, yeah, it's going to be all right. And then, Patricia is just like, I don't care about any of that. He can have it all, bruh.
Yeah, because like you just had your world recalibrated, right?
I don't care about any of that. He can have it all.
That's kind of the message. Is that stuff that seems important when it comes to life or death are just not going to be important. When you think about what is important, all of the petty bickering or even the not so petty bickering if it came down to that person not being here, you know, you probably look at it differently.
And she say, "You don't want to be like me. You don't want to be like me.
Fix it.
You don't want to end up like this."
And then she's telling all the couples to get their relationships together. And that just means stand up and just act like everything's fine.
Love one another, please. Fix it. Fix it.
Because that's what happens.
Yeah. And we talked about that with each of the other couples, their quote unquote resolution of the problem in their marriage. None of them actually got any resolution. Seriously. None of them got a resolution. It's just that this situation happens. She says fix it. They kiss and nobody gets divorced.
And she did that. That means she fixed it. So in the end, after all this that she's done and stuff and being perfect and all of that and guiding people wrong or giving bad advice, in the end, she's still the fixer of all her friends' relationship. Killed her husband because the doctor comes out and basically, you know, lets them know.
Says, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they try to make it a little more dramatic in the movie because then it leads into the scene where, you know, they're doing his memorial. But at the end of the day, you know, Patricia is alone now, right? It's her.
She can have Mike.
Oh my gosh. She's just alone.
Yeah.
She's
because she went up on
and had something to do with the deaths of both her husband and her child.
Bruh,
this
tells you to just not to come up on people's job acting a fool.
I hope she gets some therapy because you're gonna need it after this. Really.
Yeah. If she didn't get over Noah's thing, then she ain't getting over this.
Yeah. Cause like she directly facilitated that. Cause and then I don't know, man. She just what a terrible thing. Yeah. What a terrible thing to have happen.
What do you think of Janet Jackson's acting in this scene?
I don't think it was that good.
I didn't like it.
But I've never thought Janet was like the most amazing actress. But the part where she like smacks herself in the face.
In the head.
Yeah, like smacks herself in the head. She's like, "Oh, I'm stupid." You know, I mean, I think she tried, but she just is not like
that type of actress. Yeah.
Yeah.
She shouldn't be playing these roles like this.
Well, you know. Yeah, I agree that it was nice that she got an opportunity to play these roles after the Super Bowl stuff and people didn't want to touch her with a 10-foot pole. I appreciate Tyler Perry, you know, putting her in something and all of that business. But
this a whole different topic, but this ain't your purview. Like, I guess she's an actress, or is she?
She's always been at listen. When she was a little girl and she was penny, and her mama brought up that iron, and she was like, "Mama."
Yeah, but that don't mean that's what the area you should be in. Either. Right? Like, so what happened was she was performing as a singer dancer. Something happened. So let me give you a job in this other field to show that, you know, we could like.
She was in Poetic Justice. She was in
I know she was in movies. Whatever. Your career probably was over anyway, but.
Which career? The music or the
both?
movie?
It's all the same, right? She went out there with Jada. Never mind.
Listen.
She was getting old. She was already 40 something, right? Like, you just got lucky that Tyler Perry came along, and a lot of these old actors and actresses, really. But let me tell y'all this: type 14 years.
Yeah, 14 years
at the end. But the one that I tell you at the end of type, don't type that.
Type that at the end, because you know some of y'all think y'all slick, and then we'll let the video out, and in like 20 minutes somebody will be, you know, putting our end comment in there, and we're like, we know you did not watch this whole thing, and don't try to fool us.
So you'll be able to tell who's out there fronting.
Yeah, you know. So,
but I think it's terrible that her husband went out like this and her child.
Yes, but that's not the end for Patricia. Patricia gets a new opportunity.
Yeah.
So let us proceed.
Say goodbye to you, Gavin. May your soul rest in eternal peace.
So they have a memorial. They're all wearing white, and that's pretty much what happens. But so Gavin is dead. Patricia's husband, Gavin, is dead. And Patricia gets to be separated from him like she wanted, and she gets to keep all the money, even his.
Yeah, what if you change the password to his account? Or, like, what did his will say? Well, they were technically still married, so I guess.
Yeah, so they didn't get the divorce, but she gets to get out of the relationship and keep all the money. That book money she didn't want to give up, she didn't have to give up. She just had to pinch off a little bit for the funeral and stuff, but yeah.
Bruh. In this last scene, Patricia is, headed out to her car.
A year later.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great lecture on grieving and healing.
Well, thank you. It's something I know all too well.
And a lady stops and is like, there's somebody who wants to meet you and da-da-da.
Okay, what's going on?
There's someone who wants to meet you.
Professor.
Who walks out but The Rock?
I'm so sorry to bombard you this way. I'm Daniel Franklin.
He's like, oh, I'm going to take you out for some coffee.
You thought it would be too forward if I asked you out to get some coffee.
And the smile that she smiles is like the biggest smile that she has not smiled in Why Did I Get Married 1 or 2. And you're telling me after all of this that she gets to have an opportunity with The Rock, and this maybe is going to be her like new man.
If you don't know, you catch this 10, 20, 30 years from now, you're seeing this video. The Rock is supposed to be like every woman's dream.
And I just wanted you to know, Professor, your lecture today was really amazing.
Right? He's supposed to be the most handsome, good-looking, well-built guy. And that's who she's getting after she done all this stuff before.
Did all that dirt together.
Yeah. And let me show you, tell you how she's still doing dirt. Patricia is a terrible person because this woman who works for the school or whatever is like, that grieving and healing all too well, right? And she's like, yeah, I do know it.
This may be really inappropriate, but in your lecture, you talk about moving on.
But how does she learn how to heal? Or is she just monetizing Gavin's death, right? Writing a book because her book is about grieving and all this. Just not even a year after he done died.
Because she had to make up that book.
Yeah, because think about it. With Noah, you didn't learn how to heal with Noah. That's been however many years. Did you just start healing after Gavin done died now?
Well, let me tell you,
just
what is the
monetized
BS of it all is that you needed intensive therapy to begin with, even before Gavin died. But you definitely needed intensive therapy after.
Yeah.
And you can't tell me.
Talk about something I know all too well.
12 mere months later that you have not only healed, figured it all out, but written a book telling
to tell
other people how to do it. Girl.
That's what I'm saying. She's a terrible person. She's just monetizing his death. And then she's get the happy ending with the greatest man on earth.
No, ma'am. You don't deserve a rock. You don't deserve none of that. What you just, I can't even say what you deserve. I'll just say not The Rock. No, I rebuke.
She went up to
ending.
his job and run out of there being whatever she done.
Chased him out into his death. Chased him out into his death. The Rock
took all the money and everything.
What is she gonna do to you? What's she gonna do to you if y'all start dating?
And then she gonna get with him and be like, "This my book money." You.
Well, because he's a benefit, the person. I think what is it? A benefactor. He's the guy who's giving money and everything. So he's super rich. He's got way more money than her. So she won't have to worry about that anymore.
She gonna try to take half of his.
Shut up, man. I just no, ma'am.
It's supposed to be the happy ending.
You don't get to be.
I'm not happy about this.
Show me
ending,
somebody
Tyler
else's
Perry.
situation in here. Show me where Troy got his own business and his own job now, or whatever the heck Troy is doing. Show me some other character. Do not show her. She needs to just be sitting there. What we should have seen is her walk into a therapist's office and said, "Hi, I'm Dr. Patricia Agnew, and I'm here for therapy."
And then bam,
that's
it's
how
over.
The credits should have rolled.
This right
that should have been the end. Not this. Not this.
Yeah, maybe it show Angela and them or something, but come on.
No.
This is what? You ain't gotta atone for nothing. Just write a book and people believe your BS in your book. Here's The Rock.
But that just go to show, like,
But it's
this is a
probably
movie,
realistic.
but I think people write plenty of books about stuff that's shenanigans and they're just making a lot of money off of it,
Oh yeah, and they be like, I done been through this, but people be monetizing that.
Well, and then when you get when you're credentialed like that, then it kind of gives you like carte blanche to just be able to write a book about whatever with credibility, right?
Yeah, maybe she go to those support groups now, and then she gonna start her own and do a series like that.
Or maybe that's her new retreat. It's
Yeah,
like people who have
like
grief and
how did I
loss,
get over it?
And then you come and you pay a lot of money to
Tyler
come to
Perry,
her
if
retreat.
you do this, you better pay me. How did I over it?
How I got over.
If you made it this far into this nice long breakdown, type $800K in the comments so we'll know that you stuck around. And if you watched all of them, type 1.7 million.
Thank you so much for watching, and check out this video that is on the screen right now.